Okay, my friends, this is going to be fun. I've been meaning to do this for quite a long time. Praveen Mohan is doing some fabulous work, and somebody sent me a video of his talking about these little bumps that are on the walls, and they're everywhere. And I'll show you a little clip, a couple little clips of his video, and I can explain those bumps. And they are from tendon mats of giant creatures. I know I keep going over the giant creatures. They were giant, that's all. You keep asking the questions, and nobody wants the answers. What happened was they cut these mats and broke these little stubs off right here. And those are the little stubs that are the tendon mat bumps. And what it was these balls, and here's one of the balls right here. They anchor into like your bone or your flesh or wherever down somewhere, it locks it in. And then that little stalk comes up through this little crack here. They call it Chinese finger trap, see it? And they come up through and anchor onto the mat. So now the mat can pull back and forth according to being anchored here. This is an injury, and that hurts like hell. And if you do ever had your, like, just a real hard sit-up or something and you feel your stomach go thump, that's what that is. And then you're going to have a real sore spot. Anyway, that's a ball pulled out. And it's one of these. And that's the little, and that's where they break. And this is well known. I have all the anatomical shots of this, and they're all in microscopic shots of actual body tissue. And that's where they broke them off. So now let's go look at them. All right, now I'll let you come up and watch this. This goes back to 2020. The mystery of the ancient knobs in the temples, evidence of stone melting, geopolymer technology, question mark. So he doesn't know, but he's trying to explain these little knobs, and I think I just did to you, or will, and they are literally biology. Now, I'm just going to play forward for you, and of course this is Praveen Mohan, and here he goes.
With knobs are used in unimportant places or places where they won't be noticed. And you may think, wow, that's a lot of knobs, but the stone blocks with knobs just make up 1 or 2% of the entire temple. And these knobs are not only found in Cambodia and India, they're found in Egypt, Peru, Turkey, and in almost all ancient megalithic sites.
All right, well, why? Why, and why are they so perfectly molded and so, you know, all these walls it's fabulous. You see how clear that is? You see how nice that is? And then, of course, you have the bumps. Well, I showed you the bumps coming off, and the straps would come down. They cut them, and then they just did this, because there's a wall. Well, let me see if I can find it. Hold on. All right, I'm not sure where this is from, to be perfect. I think it's in Peru or somewhere down there. But it looks to me like this was a test wall to see the best way to deal with these tendons. And they ended up just breaking them off, and they tried to strip them down, and some of them they scraped down. And you see that one right there? That is the biology. If you could see that, you see that? It's blood in there. It's a little pinched off blood vessel. Basically, you know, they have an interior structure inside. And you see this right here? This isn't one of them, a very similar one to that. And there was 2 of them laying on top of each other. I'll show you. You see, there was another tendon ball coming out that ran too. Whoops, you can't see that, can you? Let me back it on out. But you see this rind around there? That's what's called feldspar. And they all have exactly that same stuff, because that is the fabric of the tissue that surrounds it. It's very tough stuff. Whoops. And of course it has the same stuff. You see it? And that's one of those balls. And that went through one of those Chinese finger traps and was locked in. And these white fibers, they are tough, tough, tough. And you find them in the white fiber stuff is the mineralized, very, very hard, tough stuff. Because tendons don't stretch too much. They're normally a connective tissue between between bone and muscle. So you have your bone, You have a piece of tendon, and then you have a muscle. And when you want to move that bone and pull the muscle, the tendon is the interface between the two. The tendon gives very little, and the muscle pulls a lot. And of course, the bone doesn't do much anything other than go with whatever is being pulled. But this is the kind of tissue you will find literally on every mud fossil, because that's where they separate, on the membranes, even like this bone. See that bone head? It's got the same stuff. That's all, it's actually made from cartilage. I'm sorry, from collagens. This is cartilage on a bone head. And it actually has a pad. You see this little pad here where the next bone rocks on there so they don't scrape and scrub bone to bone. This is a goose. It's my buddy Caesar. And here's his feathers. Again, collagen. Everything that separates anything from everything else. Your guts, your tendons are all wrapped. Every single tendon in your body has its own membrane. Every single muscle fiber. Every single thing there is has its own membrane that separates it from everything else. That's the beauty of nature. And when the membranes, because they're made of collagen, stretchy, rubbery, pocket-filled collagen, because these are filled with little tiny holes and pockets. All of your collagen, your skin and everything, is now they realize this thing called interstitium, which is all these little tiny pockets of fluids in there. That's why you can stretch and everything's gooey and you can move it around and all that stuff. And this is something new they just really figured out pretty recently. So there's a lot of work being done now that wasn't understood before. But I can tell you what, they don't understand this, I can guarantee you that. And I'm having trouble having people like Brian Forrester's down here every day in places like this. I would love to have his input and ask him, can you go up and look at this? Can you test some of this? Can you think about this in a new way? Very hard to turn people's minds around when they have a strong opinion that's just not supported by the truth. Let me show you from Arches National Park. I showed you the big strap coming down with the ball at the end. Let's see if we can find some of those. All right, you see up here? All the bumps? Those are the same things I'm showing you. There's a lot of them have bumps, and some of them don't. But they all fit together because they were all cut when they were wet. And guess what? This one here has blood still in it and a piece of the bone. This one here, I guess they used it, and they used some really bad stuff. Look at that one. That one there is nasty. That's basically flesh and bone, the inside of stuff. But this one here, this is the blow up of it. You see it? That's red blood. And that curve is from the bone. And when they cut it too deep, and they ended up using it anyway. Normally you don't see them like this. And this is all from creatures' bodies. See how beautiful these are? They're right at the very clear tendinous material. When you can get them like that, they're perfect. And then they just plopped them in there when they were semi-soft. And I can show you they cut them when they were soft. This was nothing special. Well, I mean, it was special. But it was not like they chiseled them down with little copper chisels or something. You see that? I can't account for this. I've been trying to figure this out. The only thing I can come up with is that this had to be brought from the sky and dropped down here. There's absolutely no question whatsoever that this was wet when it was placed here. It didn't drive here. It didn't drive here. It didn't come from that direction. It didn't come from this direction. But it's here. And here is the width of it, way out here and way out here. And this, originally I thought this was like tire tracks and they drove it here, but the only other possibility is that these were up when it was driven here. And I don't know. No, no, it doesn't. No, because there's no, these tire tracks. These don't go off of here and off of here, and I can certainly see they don't go up here. So this, as far as I'm concerned, it must have been dropped here. Now, this is all that mineralized stuff I talk about all the time. This is some kind of flesh or tendon. It could well be tendon. And here's where they cut the slabs. Now, did they have something to reach over and cut, and they took them? Because they did this in many places. Many places. See, this was the same thing. They were up here somewhere. They were excavating, or from over here, but they were cutting these slabs and making these walls down here. And they had to be wet at the same time. You saw the other one. It sunk in, and then the slabs were being removed. And they fit together like putty because they were basically like putty. Here's another one here. This is tendon. And it looks like to me it's an Achilles tendon. I'll show you the Achilles tendon. And then they cut these steps and they made these walls. It's as far as I can do. I mean, I can't see anybody making an argument against that. See, these kids are sliding down tendons. This is the bloody, that's called the synovial sheath that sits on the side of the tendons. Let me show you what a tendon looks like. You see that? That's the Achilles type of tendon. The other one is a flat mat with those balls like that locked in and secured, and then the whole mat can pull back and forth like on your stomach muscles and stuff like that. And those were the best, and those were the ones they broke the little tabs off. These, they didn't have those little bumps on them, like the totally different, but very tough, very good stuff to work with. All right, think of this. If this strap was hanging down over and this ball was in the flesh like it should be in this one, and all of this mat eroded away, what would you see? You would see a stalk going into a ball that was in some kind of a flesh. But the mat has gone away. Some chemistry dissolves the mat, some chemistry dissolves other things. It depends on if it's which side of the scale the pH is on and how much transition metals you have. I understand this very well now, and some of them turn into, like this right here, that's a heart. Literally, that's a heart. And the reason it's white like this and clear like this is what's called a water opal. It had no transition metals, and it was in a condition where the salts and acids took everything out except the structure. And the structure is collagens and so forth. Anyway, if I could show you a strap coming down with a giant ball on the end and all that stuff eroded away, and it was very large, what would you think? Because you're going to have to think uno momento. All right, I believe this is Arches National Park in Utah, and that is one of those tendon straps, and that is one of the balls. This is where the mat would have been, and the mat has eroded. There's other balls here. You see there's another here, this over here. They come in huge clusters. There was one right here, and there's that little central spot. When they break it off, remember I showed you the one on the test wall? You could see very easily. This is exactly what it is. That's the strap. They are much more erodible than the balls. The balls are much tougher. So you can see them all over the place. The straps are pretty much all gone. Okay, these are what are the tendon balls that I have been showing you, that they're these little balls like this that have the straps. Now they break right there. And I can show you that, which I will in the Anatomical. And they're all over the place. Here's one here. They have they'll have one little spot where they attach, right there. That one's there. This is highly eroded, or it could be there. Hard to tell. But it's going to be one, and they call these concretions. They say, oh, that's just a concretion. I said, wait a minute. That's one of these stalks. Oh, no, it's just a concretion. I said, no, it's not. That stalk is what held this into a guy's bone or somewhere. And the same thing here. I think it must be this one right here. I'm pretty sure that's what, yeah, you can see it. That's just looks like the core of it. If you get it in the right light, you can see things a lot better than if you just see them like bright. You see it? And I think I can even see the vein and the artery there. right. But anyway, these are, and they're not concretions. And there's, sometimes they look like Russian dolls. There's one core over another, over another, over another. Sometimes they have like honeycombs inside of them. It depends, I believe, on the type of creature, first of all, which I don't know what kind of creatures we're dealing with back then. Secondly, where is it in the body? Is it in a place where it has to do a little more flexing than another place? These are different implants in different areas in your body, but they all have the same characteristic. They all have a ball as the anchor, the enthesis, and then they have a strap coming out which goes to something to pull against, and the muscle is in between and does the pulling. So I think we got a lot of more looking to do. See, sometimes they look like that. It's just a stone ball, and I will show you how they. I mean, they're all over the world, and people say, "Oh, these are just," they have no clue what they are. You see these, and they are everywhere because that's the way these creatures were built. And some of them have this kind of thing. Some of them have a honeycomb. There's one of them, I forget what they call it. I might even call it honeycomb rock or something like that. Waffle rock, I think that's what they call it. And it's one of these, but not this exact style. There's other ones that have that. Hold on. See, this one came from a friend of mine, Lee Simpson. This is the kind of internal structure in some of them. And some of them really actually have an exact grid pattern. And I believe some of them are able to flex like this kind of a way. And so that they don't really, or maybe these are pockets where all the muscles invested. I don't really know. I got to be honest with you. I do not know. But I do know that these are inside of tendon walls. This is also from Lee Simpson, my friend. This is from Chinchero in Peru. Now, this is one of those tendon balls. And here, look, see this? That's blood. That's literally hematite, red iron oxide blood. And you always see green things growing where there's red blood. I say it over and over and over, but I mean, it's true. Wherever there's going to be artery blood, you're going to see the green things growing, moss and so forth. Where you have this kind of blood over here, this is black blood. And I show you some, I think I'm showing you Mohan's stuff. And I'll show you where he's got a ton of lichen growing right out of the holes. You can see the holes, which are the veins. And they have the black blood. It's an O2 variety. And the white lichen love that. The green loves the red blood. Okay, here's Praveen again. He says that he's looking at the blocks and how they're made. And
the neighboring blocks, they don't have this protrusion, but this block does. What is the purpose of this knob? Why was it created more than 1,000?
You see this up here? I'm not kidding. I think that's a fingerprint. Well, let me show you mine. Hold on a second. This is from one of my giants, and I have two of them here that were both DNA tested. This one is a fingerprint, and these are the ridges of the fingerprint, as wide as my thumb. And that's what it is from grip skin. I broke this off so I could drill down into the fleshy part to get blood out. And that is the fingerprint side. So that's why I say I think that other thing was a fingerprint. And this is the nail side, the fingernail side. And I broke it right off of here so I could drill down in and get it out of where an artery was. Now, this is the pad that bumps up against your next finger or next bone so they don't scrub. And that's the fingernail. And it's almost 3 feet long, so it's a pretty good sized creature. And then the other one was, hold on. The other one was this one here. Both of them DNA tested. That's a left hand. Hold your left hand out and look at, take your time, come back to this and just stop it and stay right here and look at it. There's the tendon that runs down from your left hand. There's the bumper pad that runs right around the hand. It's different. This is that grip skin, like I showed you before. It peels right off. You see it? Very, very tough stuff. And I have the fingertips, and I've got a lot of stuff from this. It's DNA tested, CAT scanned some of the parts, and the other one was done too. And then the other last thing I had was the lungs. I had a lung done. This lung I had tested. This one actually leaked a little bit of blood out of it. You see all these little tiny red spots? There was little blood balls coming out of it. Because once they come out of the mud, blood will actually come right out of them. And you can do this, you find red clay. If something that's really red, it's always been really wet, or mostly red and wet, muddy clay. Not always been wet, but pretty much. Not in a river or a watery spot, but just something that would have been in an area that would have normally been sort of wettish, and it's red clay. You will find this kind of stuff, and it will have blood that will just ooze right out of it. And these little holes, you see these little round circles? You see them? They look like little keyholes. They look like little keyholes. That's because they're these. This was that. All right, and this one here still has all the fascia on the outside and all the really dense red blood here. I wanted to look at this one. That's the one I sent off for testing. Well, I didn't send this off. I took the extraction. I sent that off. This was blood came out of here. And then I can show you another rock. Hold on. I got another rock here that shows how the transition between, here's a rock, and it's something similar to this rock right here. It has what they call a bone foramen. It was just a cavity in the rock. And through those go your arteries and veins, some other things, nerves and so forth. Now, that's a scab, just like you would have get on your own hand if you had a cut. And here's when you, what happens when, this is called clotting fabric, and fibrin really is what the technical name is. But it's a fabric that sets up between the blood and the oxygen. And then the blood hardens up, it oxidizes and forms a clot. Right? That seals off the blood flow, and then your body takes over and fixes things. Now, this is after I took the scab off, the fibrin off, and here's the holes that feed the blood supply. Remember I told you there's veins and arteries and so forth go through. Well, the artery is the red one, see? And the vein is the black one. So this, as far as I'm concerned, you know, the mud fossils is absolutely, there's no question about it. I mean, there's not a single person in the world can stand up against this. And if people want to pay, I'll get this thing, the DNA tested. There's the actual artery right there. This is a goose neck, or a goose head, really. There's the whole head. Now, it died in the flood, just like all of them did. They have a flat spot, most of them. This side is just flat. Because after they died, and they transitioned in the flood, in the mud, that's why I call them mud fossils. I named them, I discovered them, I did all the work on this. And that is an artery. You could drill down in there. And so you don't take it right off the surface, you don't just swab something. You drill down in there, you get all that stuff off, you clean it up real good, and then you drill down in again. That is the stuff you send to the lab. And you do it in good, clean conditions and all of that stuff. But that's where his neck was. That's basalt now. See it? But that was at one time a goose neck. And that is one time, and still is, a goose artery. See it? I went in there, I looked in there, I scraped some stuff out, looked at it in my microscope. And it's red blood. So, that's what we got. Let's put it this way, if somebody wants to pay for it, I will drill this out and have this tested for DNA. And it's going to come back goose DNA or some kind of a waterfowl. I would imagine. I mean, I'm sure they have something like this in the database. But that right there is the artery. And there was a vein. I think the vein is over here somewhere. I think maybe it's right in this area. Veins clamp off. You can't see them. It might even be there. Hard to say. Because once they get in a flat spot, things change a little bit. Where they're in perfect condition, they're just perfect. I mean, everything is exactly where it should have been, and it's all in this, even the pattern of the feathers and everything. It's just, they're flawless, absolutely flawless. But you have to understand them. You have to understand how to see the patterns instead of just saying, oh, there's nothing there, oh, it just looks like this, it just looks like that. And I've had this happen to me over and over and over again. So if you want to test this for DNA, I will do that. And I think this is a good solution. I'm not paying. How about that? No, I had my giants and stuff tested for DNA, but if you want to do some DNA testing, somebody wants to pay for it, the no-toe, I can get blood out of here. I found a couple spots that have blood. Tish had some stuff that's amazing. And this is the one that has the springs in it instead of tendons. Now mine, I'm not sure. I think mine might have springs in it too. But normally this ball is your heel, and then that strap comes up. Well, here's the heel, and then the strap comes up. You see it? It's the same thing. Only we're going that way, this is going that way. Now that would have gone up, and there's a saddle right here where this bone sits in that saddle. And that tendon comes up to meet it. See it? It would have come up right up to here to meet it. Now, this is not inside of our feet. This is nothing like this. However, I figured out how this works. And there's two springs. This one loads up, and then it pulls this in, and then there's actually cables that run around. I've shown this many times, and this cavity lets this thing move up. So you load one spring, and then this starts to re-upload. So you got two springs coming back down to bring it back down. It's got a normal heel, a normal tendon, a normal leg, and she's got some deadly stuff. I'll do some DNA testing with this if somebody wants to pay for it. You know, I worry about that. I wonder if I should be doing that. I wonder if I should even be talking about this stuff at all. Because it's a little scary, I got to be perfectly honest with you, but I don't think there's anything should be kept hidden. I mean, there's nothing that will remain hidden. I mean, there's some statement about that somewhere. I can't remember where it was, but there's nothing hidden that will stay buried or something like that. And these are not staying buried. They're just laying everywhere. You can go and find them yourself. So it's time to put this into context and meaning, because it's absolutely proven. There's no question. So what does it mean? That's the key. That's what I'm looking for now. And if you're interested, stick around. Alright, you know how I'm always talking about there's red blood, and then there's the black blood, which is the vein blood. The vein blood creates the lichen. The red blood creates the fluffy green stuff. Now, he's going to show you a spot here.
Why was it created more than 1,000 years ago? Perhaps you may think this is just an exception.
All right, you see right there, if you came up there with a little magnifying glass, you could see there's holes everywhere that black stuff is coming out of there. Lichen eats the black stuff. Fluffy green stuff, like I think over here there's a green thing sticking out. He says, "Oh, look, it's growing, something." Yeah, right there, you see it? It's growing right out of the knob. They love green. Green stuff loves red blood. And lichen loves the black blood. All right, that's it for today. I love you all. Stay around, because this all means something serious. This is huge, huge stuff. And nobody's taken it into the right context yet that I know of. And it's time to start thinking a little deeper into this. This is, for me, this is eternity. I mean, I don't know what you're thinking about. For me, I'm thinking about eternity.